Hello everyone. So for the last 3 days I've been talking about the skandhas, about form, feeling and discriminations. And today we're moving on to the fourth of the 5 skandhas, which is conditioning, or you could call it karma formations, or at its very simplest I'm going to call it habit. So I'd like to read you a little bit from Chogyam Trungpa about this particular skandha. He says samskara, so that's the official word if you like, samskara, does not seem to have any good exact literal translation. The basic literal meaning has the sense of a gathering or accumulation, a tendency to accumulate a collection of mental states as territory. There are 51 general types of these. There are 11 types of good attitudes or tendencies, among which are surrendering or faith, awareness, discipline, equanimity, absence of passion, absence of anger, absence of ignorance, humbleness or shyness, non-violence, energy or effort. An important point here, he says, is that nobody had to invent these religious or spiritual ideas. They are a natural part of our human psychology. And then he says there are 6 opposite types of thought, the egocentric group. That is ignorance, passion, anger, pride, doubt, and dogmatism. This ignorance is characterized by a sort of sudden boldness which acts without considering the situation. And then there are 4 types of neutral thought: sleep or slothfulness, intellectual speculation, remorse, and knowing. And he says that those are neutral in that they can fit in with virtuous or evil patterns. So one cannot just condemn one type of thought and totally accept another, even if it is the spiritually virtuous type of thought. They are all questionable, as all the other kinds of thoughts are questionable. So I think what he's talking about there is that, as we know in Buddhism, we have to come back to our motivation to know whether a thought or a mental event, a mental state, is skillful or unskillful. So, for example, something can look virtuous on the surface, and it might not be, because the intention underneath isn't necessarily as skillful as it appears on the outside. So, for example, an obvious example is if somebody makes a very large donation to I'm just thinking now of a large donation to the government at a time of the elections, and actually the reason that they do it is because they want some financial benefit themselves, some business deal, as it were. And there, we can find examples like that much closer to home. So, maybe we give to somebody who is homeless because we feel guilty, or because because we don't want to have to think about them anymore. We don't want to have to address it in a more fundamental way. We don't want to have to think about it. So we give £1 or £5 to sort of appease our conscience in some way. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that at all, because any act of generosity is definitely worth doing and it's great to do. By our actions, in a way, when we start, I think, practicing the precepts, we have to allow for the fact that we're not always coming from the most pure motives. Sometimes we have to act as a bodhisattva, act as a generous person, just to free ourselves up in a way, so that we we act more open-handedly. So there was a little story I read some time ago about somebody asking the Buddha, how can I become more generous? So it was somebody that was particularly tight-fisted, who was particularly mean. And the Buddha initially had this person passing one valuable object from one hand to the other, as if giving it away. That always fascinated me. I thought, really? Passing something from one hand to one of their hands to the other. But, I suppose it was somebody that was having extreme difficulty letting go of anything. I know Sangharakshita once said that in his time in India, that people just practice giving away something every day. And it seemed to him that the less people had, the more they were able to give away. I know more recently when some of our own Tri Ratna friends and order members have been out to India, that they were humbled and it's somewhat embarrassed at times by the fact that when they went into people's homes, they were given meals and seconds and so on, when it was quite obvious in that home that they had very, very little, but they would give away their last meal. So yes, I think the more you have, the more you protect it. Anyway, coming back to the samskaras, basically I think it really helps if we can at least be open, even if we don't believe in rebirth, to contemplate the idea that maybe these samskaras have been built up over lifetimes. So we do come into this world with some very strong propensities, we could say. And with karma formations, with acting out these karma formations, in other words, acting out our habits, every time we reenact something that we do, we are reinforcing that habit. It doesn't take much to reinforce a habit so that it becomes very strong within us. And as I sometimes describe it, we are digging a groove for ourselves. Just like we can dig a ditch, to help water flow in another direction. All the time, we are helping our habits to reinforce every time we repeat our actions. So that's very encouraging, because it means that if we can develop more skillful actions, and if we at first, even if they don't feel natural to us, if we can have confidence that we are digging grooves, more skillful grooves for ourselves, that's a very heartening reflection. So we can change, and we can change by getting to know our deepest habits, making different decisions about how we act, and reinforcing those actions, reinforcing those ways of acting by simply repeating them, by them becoming habitual, so that we make more skillful habits rather than unskillful. Okay, I'll see you tomorrow.